Hi, my name is Carolyn and I'll be your program director in Ecuador this summer. I know you just finished learning all about the general Global Lead info. Now we're going to dive into some of the specifics to Ecuador alone. Today we're going to go over a lot of the topics that you're probably wondering about as you're getting ready for Ecuador. First, we're going to start with an overview of our itinerary. You get to see all of this small but spectacular country. Next, we're going to go into community groups so you can understand what those are and how you will be involved when you're in Ecuador. Next, we'll go into everyone's biggest question, spending money. And then we'll continue on to talk about what you should bring. And lastly, we'll follow up with some frequently asked questions. If at any point during this video a question pops into your head that I don't answer, go ahead and jot it down and then email it to me at ecuador@globalleadprogram.org. Send me those emails by midnight tomorrow night, and then I'll film a video recap answering any additional questions that we'll post in the next few days. We're going to have an awesome team on the ground in Ecuador this summer. I'll be your program director. Our faculty director is Dr. Mario Chandler from Oglethorpe University, and Courtney Duran is our International Leadership Team Director on Global Lead, and she'll be there for about the first 2 weeks as we get started. During the 4 weeks of Lead Ecuador, we go on a tour of the country, so you really see the highlight reel of Ecuador. We'll start out in Quito, which is the capital city, and it's also a World Heritage UNESCO site. That's where we'll do the Spanish crash course and some salsa lessons, as well as starting to dive into the leadership curriculum. Our second week in Quito will focus on the service project. Our service focus in Ecuador is putting on an after-school English camp at a local Montessori school. We'll be working with students who are ages 5 to 15 years old and putting on arts and crafts, sports, games, and English lessons. These students want to learn English in order for them to have a better chance of success down the road. You'll really get a chance to get to know these students, and you'll feel like you have little brothers and sisters in Ecuador by the second day. After our first 2 weeks in Quito, we'll pack up and start our tour of Ecuador. Our first stop is Cotopaxi National Park, which is an active volcano, and that's where we're going to do a mountain biking day. This isn't mountain biking like careening down hills, but it's actually more rolling hills, and it can be a challenge because we are at 10,000 feet, but it's beautiful scenery and you'll have an incredible adventure. After Cotopaxi, we will head on to Baños, which is the adventure capital of Ecuador. That's where we'll get to do all kinds of waterfall hikes and really explore the natural beauty of Ecuador. Our next stop is in Tena, which is the true jungle of Ecuador. We're going to do a hike through the Amazon, and we're also going to visit with a local indigenous community, learning about their way of life and how they're dealing with the current challenges that face them. We'll also get to test our blow dart skills and learn about all of the different plants and animals that they use for medicinal purposes in the jungle. Next, we will head down to Papayacta, which is where we'll do our full-day whitewater rafting adventure. Now, whitewater rafting down the Amazon is an absolute highlight of this trip, and everyone says it's just an unforgettable opportunity. We'll finish that day staying in the hot springs of Papayacta, which have natural pools that you can relax and recover with your tired and sore muscles after a day on the river. The last stop on our tour of Ecuador is Otavalo. Otavalo is in the highlands, and it's also home to South America's largest market. So this is where you'll be able to pick up all of your favorite souvenirs to bring home to your parents and friends as you finish up your tour of Ecuador. Those of you who are joining me in the Galapagos will then head to Quito, where we'll hop our flight to the islands, and the rest of you will head to the Quito airport, where you will fly back home to the States. You've probably heard the term community groups, and you might be wondering what these are. Community groups are small groups of students from 6 to 8 individuals, and this is where you're going to do all of your small group discussions, breakout sessions, and individual activities. Our 4 community group leaders in Ecuador are Bree, Vivian, Matt, and Taylor, and they are awesome. We've already started with some of our training and preparation for them to serve as community group leaders, and they're all really excited to meet you on day 1 of Ecuador. One of everyone's biggest questions before they go is, how much money should I bring? So right now I'm going to go through a list of what's included and what's additional that you'll need to have your own spending money for. There's a lot included in Global Lead because we really work to make the program fee very comprehensive. Breakfast every day, transportation to all Lead Ecuador events, the city tour, Spanish class, bike ride, all jungle activities, waterfall hike, and the rafting trip in Papayacta. What is not included is lunches and dinners, internet, phone, and laundry at our accommodation, and any non-program adventures or tours that you choose to go on. Also, any souvenirs that you decide to bring back would be on your own as well. If you look in your manual, you'll find more budgeting tips so that you can stay within the budget that you and your parents discussed before you leave for Ecuador. One of the great things about traveling to Ecuador is that they use the dollar, so you don't need to worry about exchanging any money before you go. It is important to keep in mind, though, that you need to have small bills with you all the time in Ecuador. Very rarely will places take anything over a $20 bill. You can also find in your program manual the average costs of a few typical things in Ecuador. Meals can be really reasonable, and you can typically find a 3-course meal for around $2 or $3. We know everyone's biggest concern is what to pack. The great thing about Ecuador is that it's so diverse. We'll literally experience every different season while we're there. Because it's on the equator and we go through so many different altitudes, one day it might be 90 degrees and sunny, and the other day it might be in the 50s and chilly. So you want to bring a lot of layers so that you can be comfortable at any of these temperatures. A few of the most important things to note are to only bring what you can carry. We're moving a lot, so you want to make sure that you can physically carry everything that you bring with you. And it's probably easier to have a bag that doesn't roll. Leave your valuables at home. If it's irreplaceable, you don't want to have it with you in Ecuador. So if you have any heirloom jewelry or incredibly important possessions, you want to leave those at home for the month. Bring one bag and a carry-on, so make that a smaller backpack or something that you could pack for a shorter overnight trip. In Quito, it gets very chilly in the evenings, so you'll want to bring a jacket as well as comfortable walking shoes. You're not going to need a lot of fancy dress clothes or heels. We're going to be out and about and in adventurous clothing most of the time. In Cotopaxi, the bike ride's at a very high altitude, so you want to bring warm clothes, gloves, hat, and a windbreaker for this day. In Baños, it gets really hot, so you want to wear comfortable shoes. It might be a good idea to bring chacos or some kind of rafting shoes for when we're in the jungle. Another note for when we're in the jungle is to bring clothes that will cover your whole body for jungle hikes. It'll be hot, but you're not going to want skin exposed unless you want lots and lots of bug bites when you leave. For Papayacta, bring a swimsuit for our rafting adventure. And for Otavalo, again, it gets chilly, so bring lots and lots of layers. There's a detailed packing list in your manual as well as online in the Ecuador Accepted Students section. If you have any questions about what to bring, feel free to email me at ecuador@globalleadprogram.org. Now we're going to wrap up with a few frequently asked questions. Since we are moving a lot, we change accommodations frequently, and you're probably wondering what amenities you'll have access to in each site. If you refer to this table in your program manual, you'll be able to see where we have computer access, internet, laundry, towels, and daily cleaning. On the topic of money, like I mentioned, Ecuador uses the US dollar, so there's no need to exchange money before you go. However, it is still important to call your bank and let them know that you'll be traveling abroad to Ecuador. Ecuador uses US plugs, so you don't need to worry about voltage adapters. However, most of them are 2-prong, so if you have a 3-prong grounded appliance, you'll need to have the converter with you. You can't drink the water in Ecuador, but we'll always have plenty of access to bottled water. That's something you want to keep in mind when you're in the shower, brushing your teeth, and out at restaurants. Ecuador is at a very high altitude, so if you struggle with altitude sickness, you'll want to take it easy for the first few days to give your body time to adapt. A few tips are to drink lots of water, have Tylenol on hand, and don't overexert yourself. As a separate note, Global Lead staff will never administer any prescription or non-prescription medication, so if you do want to have something like Tylenol or Advil with you, you need to pack it on your own. We hope that these 2 gateway videos helped answer your questions as you're getting ready for Lead Ecuador. There's lots of information in your program manual, so be sure to read every page. There's also a ton of information online under the Ecuador Accepted Students section, so check there for answers to your questions. If there's anything that I haven't covered yet or that isn't online, feel free to email me at ecuador@globalleadprogram.org, and I'll post a video on Wednesday answering any of your questions. We are so excited to see you guys in Quito, and we're going to have an awesome summer adventure in Ecuador. Thanks!